This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me tonight are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
In this slightly brief episode, we're covering two main features. We're going to kick off with The Last Rite, and then we have Anonymous Animals. Our short shot this week is Atom, and our DTV throwback is Above the Law. No, not the Seagal one. So without further ado, let's crack on. Our first review then is The Last Rite. Lucy is a medical student living with her boyfriend Ben at a house he recently bought. It isn't long, however, before Lucy feels she is being stalked by a supernatural being, the man in the black hat. Without further ado, let's go straight over to Steve.
Yeah, your typical exorcism story. It really reminded me of the what's it called, Robert Blonsky one from other week.
Oh yeah, Exorcist, was it Vigilante Exorcist or Exorcist Vigilante?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, Exorcist Vengeance.
Vengeance.
That was it. Yeah. We, you know, without the revolvers and shotguns and stuff like that. But yeah, it's the same old stuff. But I just think it could have been a hell of a lot shorter. The priest character was like a wet lettuce. His performance, I thought, was absolutely terrible. I mean, it was well shot. Everyone else was actually quite good, but I mean, there's like a 15-minute scene of him talking to, I don't know, like a
Oh, the other priest sort of thing.
Yeah, the woman.
Above
him.
Yeah.
Which didn't really need to be there, you know. It just dragged on so bloody much. And a boyfriend, he's just a twat at the beginning. He really is annoying.
No, he's more than that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's just red flags everywhere, really, for him. And then halfway through, he suddenly becomes this loving, you know. Oh, we need to save her and all this. And you're giving a shit for dropping a glass, you bell end. And I wasn't, not impressed with this at all this week. It really, really annoyed me.
Funny thing is, you know, I thought this played its sort of horror cards quite close to its chest early on. You know, it sort of was pretty coy about what was going on. What was worrying, what was sort of more concerning, was the boyfriend, as you said. You know, this guy is he's a wife beater in the making. And there were so many red flags of what he was saying, what he was doing, the way he was gaslighting her, the way he was giving her shit all the time. I clocked it. I said 9 minutes in the film. If she hasn't walked out the film, you know, this should be a 9 minutes short of her sort of like going, well, that's the end of that relationship. I'm out of here. And that would have been the end of it. You know, no more hauntings or anything. But no, she sticks around because she loves him, and you know, she's the only one who understands him, and all this sort of bullshit. You imagine anyway. But it's stupid stuff like when, you know, she's in the kitchen for like half a second when all the cupboards and doors open, and he comes in going, "What the fuck are you doing?" You're thinking, well, clearly it wasn't her. You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, and as you say, his you know, his whole persona just sort of, you know, spins on a dime, and he's suddenly the concerned boyfriend sort of thing, even though he's made a point of being a complete arse and telling her it's all in her head and all the rest of it. And yeah, no, it's absolutely ridiculous. I did enjoy bits of this, I must admit. I think it is too long. But there's some really good makeup effects. They do a really good job of changing Lucy's appearance at times to make her look sort of more demonic and things like that. I think the whole thing of like the feral demon kind of walk and crawl sort of thing has been done to death. You know?
Well, that's what I mean. It is. It's like it's the same as every other exorcism film in the last 10, 15 years. You know, there's no difference. I mean, I don't know why they keep making them, because you're never going to beat The Exorcist. To be fair, it's a classic for a reason. You know, it's never been bettered, and it never will.
Not really. Yeah, I mean, the whole exorcism bit here was pretty light, to be honest. But you know, the whole sort of feral sort of crawling and walking sort of thing. I think I watched a film recently called Noroi, Noroi. It's a Japanese found footage thing, and that got so much mileage out of one character just standing stock still in the room and wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And they made that work gangbusters. And as soon as you saw it, you go, oh shit, you know, it's like that. But this whole thing, it's amateur dramatics. You know, it's just been done to death. It really has. And the whole sort of, you know, getting your face really close to the person, you know, it's so intimidating, but no. One scene I really did like, though, was when she was sort of possessed, and like she retreated in her own mind, like into this forest.
Yeah,
that scene was really good. I thought that was very well shot and was quite effective. The other bit was really effective as well, was when she meets her grandmother in the garden, and the way her grandmother's face changes and sort of distorts. I thought that was a really good effect. And quite unnerving, but other than that, as you say, it's a bit, it's not only pedestrian, but it's been already done countless times, and you know the way the boyfriend acts sort of takes you out of the film, out of the narrative, because you know you're just looking at him like going, you're a twat, and she should be nowhere near you. And you,
like you said, it is the turn on the dime. It's like, okay, I can sit, you know, I get if you've finally come to realise what's going on, then maybe you would be, but you lose all credibility with him in the first 5 minutes, and you can't stand him as a character.
Yeah,
because he is an absolute swat.
Absolutely.
And that is detrimental to the film in a way.
Rich, how would you, mate?
Yeah, I agree with what you've said. I think in part, I'm not sure if the whole thing with the boyfriend at the start was supposed to be either a red herring or like some conduit. You know, it's like the thing that makes her vulnerable to the.
Well, what I was wondering is if he was being affected by it as well, and you know, the sort of evil in the house was maybe affecting him. And so,
but they
you
never
know
really,
what I mean.
But
again, exactly. That never really got sort of touched upon. So
no, I think it was more just
he's a
twat. Yeah, basically. So yeah, I've been very interested in this one for a while because it's the feature directing debut of a guy called Leroy Kincaide, who I had, who was a local guy to me. He's from Maidstone, and I bumped into him once in Maidstone. I didn't know who he was at the time, but you know, like I as I've encountered him in various shorts and stuff, I was like, hang on a minute, that's that guy that I met that time, or whatever. Anyway, so I've been quite interested, and being, you know, he's a local guy, and this is a local film. It was made in Kent, where I am. So I've been interested to follow his career because he's done all sorts. You know, he's been like a wrestler. He does like paranormal investigations, which is sort of the through line with this. And then he's directed a number of shorts, including a fan film about the Max Payne character. And so this is so building on all that experience that he's had, you know, he's finally made a full length feature, which I think to me, this sort of stands along the same lines as like Blake Ridder's Help.
Yes.
It's sort of on the same sort of board there. I think it's very professionally made. It is a bit derivative. Well, it is very derivative, unfortunately, and it gets more derivative as it goes on. I mean, it tips its hat to The Exorcist with a couple of shots, but it really is a kind of copy of The Exorcist by the end.
The thing is, Rich, I mean, just sort of stop you there. I mean, do you think this has been? Is this film a case of sort of market research? And is this sort of like the most obvious? Is this the most obvious way for him to get funding to make a film, to make a feature?
I don't know. I
know
just
what I mean?
know that.
I'm just
I know
thinking
that
like Andrew Jones.
this is something he's
like
passionate about.
Yeah.
He's got a passionate interest about this side of things.
Yeah.
So I think this is like a passion project for him. Whether the fact that it's horror managed, helped him get the funding or whatever, I'm not sure. But he's, I would have rather seen him make an action movie like his short film Freeman, which he made with people like Silvio Simac, which showed a lot of promise. That was, I think, the first thing he directed or co-directed, and that was quite stylish but low budget. Just basically a fight scene in a garage. But so he's done the action man stuff, with the wrestling and everything. So I would have been more interested probably to see him do that. But in this case, he's completely behind the camera. He's written it and he's directed it. He's not, as far as I don't remember seeing him in the movie at all. And I think it was quite an assured, debut in that sense. The problem is I don't think it's written very well. And the main reason I say that is because there's several characters, not the main character per se, because I didn't really have a problem with
Lucy.
Bethan Waller's performance as Lucy or whatever. I thought most of that worked really well, and and she transformed really well. But like her boyfriend's character, for example, Johnny Fleming as Ben, and in particular Kit Smith as Father Roberts. I was just thinking they're talking in a way that people just do not talk, and his just the delivery and that it wasn't working for me. It was taking me out of it. It was it seemed very unnatural.
There's one funny bit actually, which always makes me laugh. It's a thing with Hollywood as well. Anytime they want to insult anyone, they just call them by their profession. Always remember like 47 Ronin, with Keanu Reeves, and everyone just calls him Samurai, as if it's like an insult. So you get this scene with Ben sort of just turning around to the priest and just calling him priest. There you go, priest. You do bloody water, priest. As if it's like an insult the way he's sort of saying it. And it is this sort of, it's a very Hollywoodized thing. It's one of those sort of cliches you get.
As is the old in media res, which we get once again.
Oh, of course. Yeah. You see, they could have twisted that. They could have done that like a Father Merrin thing and just sort of shown that early bit as like another exorcism that he was involved in, maybe. Maybe one that went wrong.
But that's what I mean with the Exorcist thing. I mean, it is basically the two. You get the same setup with the priest, and he goes and enlists the help of another priest who's like fallen on his, fallen away from the faith, and
he's put the team together. You son of a bitch! I'm in.
So there's that. I think where it works is it's they've got some nice camera equipment and stuff, and the film looks very polished.
Great. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, it looks good. It sounds good. I think it's very suspenseful. I think things like the scene that you mentioned, where she sort of goes out and sees her, which she thinks is her nana, and she has that encounter, and there's the contortion of the face kind of effect that happens. Really, and I don't jump normally, but that really, I was really impressed.
It was really, really good.
I was like, whoa, geez, that's creepy as hell, and it was really well executed.
It really was. And the woman's line delivery, the woman playing Nan, is when she turns around and goes, "Thank you for letting him in." That was really, really good the way she did that.
Yeah, it was excellent. That was a peak point for me. I thought, and like you say, that bit where she, because she's by the point that she's possessed, but then she has this sort of moment of sort of dream lucidity where she's kind of in the bed in the forest or whatever. That was all really well done. But yeah, it's kind of by the end, it becomes this sort of rote Exorcist copy, and I thought the ending was really unsatisfying.
It just did feel a bit like, was that it?
Well, it was kind of like, there wasn't really much of a wrap up, and it didn't feel like much of a. It was. I would say I liked it a lot better than Exorcist Vengeance, which was a bit more which wasn't as classy. This is a classier film than
it
that.
is. Yeah.
You know, it's playing it's playing just that step above. In you know, this is a film that can comfortably you know, sit alongside, you know, the more respectable you know,
I can't think of any.
Exorcist
I can't think of
subgenre.
I can't, you know, Exorcist, maybe the last Exorcism, which I thought was very good. And then there's nothing really that sort of really sort of holds a candle to that sort of level.
Yeah.
No, there's a big drop off in there. You know, there really is.
There you go. Oh, I tell you, actually, what was the Emily Rose one? The one with
the Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Yeah,
that was good,
that was a good.
Scott Derrickson, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so overall, I thought at the start it seemed like it could have gone down a Dylan Vibart kind of route. You know, where it was, you know, the theme was supernatural, but it's kind of making a point about a relationship. You know, it's kind of one of those subtextual kind of things. But it doesn't really. That's kind of a red herring in the end, and it literally is.
There were some. I mean, you know, because there's a bit of blurb at the end about sort of night terrors, and they do. You know, I think she sees a psychiatrist or something at some point, and he's sort of or you know, an expert in the field of sort of the Man in Black hat. And suggesting that a lot of this is actually just induced from stress and in, you know, a bad environment and that sort of thing, which you know, she ticks all the boxes for that basically. Toxic environment, yes. You know, sort of weird environment, yes. You know, stressed about your degree, yep. All of that sort of stuff, you know, just piled on.
But that's another convention, like you say. She goes to find the guy who knows about it and has written a book and whatever. It's like, how much of a cliche is that? It's like, I mean, you get the doomsday sort of warning, you know, ooh, don't let him in. The lady, the strange lady,
right,
stuff. It's like,
it's very lucky. Isn't it lucky that the you know, the so-called expert in the field just happens to live in the same village, or the same area, right nearby. Anyway, okay, Rich, how are you going to score this?
I would like to have scored it a bit higher, but because it ends up being just so derivative and conventional, I do have to give it a 6.
Steve?
Yeah, I'll go with a 6.
It's 3 6s for what's this called? Oh, the last rite. Do that again.
Last rite. 666.
So it's 666 for The Last Rite. Go check it out. Our next review is Anonymous Animals. In an alternate reality, humans are the vulnerable animals, the cattle, the herds, to be exploited and murdered to satisfy the various hungers of their lords and masters. You will not get that synopsis from watching the first few minutes of this film. This is an interesting experiment. It's not a successful experiment, but it is an interesting experiment. It's very well filmed. It is very well filmed. But the concept here, and it is a French film, so take that as you will. But the concept here is, it's basically, you know, vegans on their high horse going, well, see how you like it. If you were the cattle and the animals are hunting you instead.
It's a vegan propaganda film.
It really is.
It is. There's no other way of putting it. It's silent. It is well shot. I'll give it that. But it's fucking dull. And it's preposterous. I'm sorry, but it really was.
It really is. So the idea, you know, I suppose you're supposed to sort of take the metaphor on face value, but it's very difficult to do so because the concept is that the animals, you know, the deer, the sheep, the dogs, the cows are sort of in this sort of humanoid form, lording it over the actual humans who are now the cattle, you know, the beasts to be hunted and herded and all that sort of stuff.
And
But
I'm
if
like
that's
a dog
if
fight.
that's the
you know.
case, yeah. But if that's the case, why do the humans, the cattle, etc., etc., why are they all manicured and wearing fucking clothes? Please explain that to me. It's like, no, Mike, no, you're taking it too literally. It's just a metaphor. But seeing that, it just took me completely out of the film. The idea, you know, these guys are sort of acting like sort of cattle, you know, and acting scared and nervous and all the rest of it. I get that, but it's just so difficult to sort of take it seriously.
Yeah, it is. I mean, also as well, I'm presuming it's supposed to be a farm, you know, a working farm. Not so much the one that's setting up the dog fight, but the other one, you know, with like but there's 4 or 5 people.
Yeah, it is a very slim herd. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There's 4 or 5 of them. If it was a proper thing, there'd be 200-300. You know, whatever. But 4, come on. And it's just tedious. And I mean, even the makeup's not great, you know. And also with it being silent as well, I think it could have had a bit more oomph to it if the humanoid animal thingies, whatever, were actually, you know, talking to each other, because they don't actually say anything. It's still, you know, it's the dog. It's still like barks or, you know, the duck quacks or whatever. There's no language.
It's
like
not
a language barrier.
It's not Planet of the Apes, is it? Basically,
no.
Which is kind of, you know, the allegory, I guess, is what they're sort of going for. Is it's sort of, you know, the humans have switched positions with, you know, but it doesn't work. There are some sort of nice touches. There's a bit, you know, with the three of the guys sort of either escape or whatever. And have been hunted by the deer in the forest. You know, that bit was quite good. But that's when I sort of like, that was the first like, what the fuck moment, because suddenly you got this guy with a deer's head, but dressed like you know, sort of well-to-do sort of
country lord or something,
country hunter kind of thing, with his shotgun over his arm, and it's like, what? And it's only at that point, because I didn't know anything about the film going into it. It was only at that point where it started to sort of click, because then it goes to the cattle bit and the guys in the thing, and I think, oh, right, now I see what they're going for. But, you know, you got a guy with a man bun, you got, you know, all this sort of stuff. I'm thinking, surely they'd all look the same if you were going down this route. You know, just shave all the heads or something, just to make it look like they're cattle, rather than sort of like, it's almost as they you know, they're living a sort of normal manicured life, and then all of a sudden they're just pulled out of it, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work at all. And it, you know, I know this is going to sound daft, but he's you know, the dog's driving round in a Citroen, and I don't know why. And it's not like an old like 2CV or something like that. It's a modern car. And it just grated on me. I'm like, well, okay, maybe go that a little bit further. May it show him, you know, humans dragging a cart like a horse and cart or something like that. Not, you know, a Citroen Picasso or something. I don't know. It just
there was a really strange film. I don't know if you saw this one, Rich. About 5 years ago, which is just called and what it was this sort of thing where humans were acting like apes. So everyone in the film was acting like apes, as if they were the you know, they'd followed that sort of evolutionary path, and all the technology and stuff was developed so that apes could use it. So they still had things like Xboxes and things, but the controls were different. They're more like sort of Harley Davidson style handlebars and things like this, rather than sort of intricate sort of handheld devices. And all the food was being cooked. It was just basically boiled meat and things like that. They'd made the effort to sort of create this society as if it was an ape society, but in human form. Whereas this thing was just like, no, we're just going to take these people and you might as well just put a sticker on them that said "moo," and that would have worked just as well, basically.
Yeah.
But there you go. Anyway. Yeah, this is only like it's an hour and 7 minutes, I think, something silly like that. Maybe even shorter than that, which is
an hour and 4.
And that's kind of what it felt like. This felt like it should be a short film.
Yeah,
it should be just a short.
It's too dragged out. It really is.
I don't think it needed the dogfighting bit. I don't really think that added.
No, I'll disagree with that, because I thought that was the only decent bit, to be fair. I mean, the other, the Cali one, that just brought me to tears, to be fair. I thought that bit at least had a bit of a bite about it.
The funniest image actually that comes out of it is during the dogfighting bit. You got the horse guy just leaning against the door, sort of smoking a fag. And he's just like totally laissez-faire. Everyone else is getting really excited about the fight and everything, and sort of getting really angry with each other. And he's just sort of leaning against the door, smoking a fag. It just looks really, really weird. It looks like the sort of wide boy sort of behavior that you probably would see. But Anyway, neither of us really got on with this one. How are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 4.
All right, I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go with a 5 for this. I can see what they're going for. I just don't think it's particularly successful. I think it was shot well. I think it looks really great sound effects, but it's it just does not work. So that's a 5 and a 4 for Anonymous Animals. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Atom. A lonely robot named Atom lives out his mundane days taking care of the BIOS, a terraforming vessel out in space. Suddenly, his solitude is shattered by a distress signal. This is a very polished short. It looks great. The set design and everything works really well. The actual the robots, Atom himself, is a great creation, and it's got a pretty decent payoff. The only thing I did not like about this was the stupid music. Steve, what do you make of this one?
I actually enjoyed this. I mean, it's it starts off a bit like a cross between Wall-E and Darkstar, and like you said, done really well. Set design's brilliant. Even the robot, I think, looks great, especially like the eyes and stuff. It gives it quite a. It sounds weird. The facial expressions don't move, but it's more emotive than most, if you know what I mean. To me, it was, and then you've got that fucking kicker of a twist at the end, and it's just like, whoa, okay, that came out of nowhere, really, and then that's it. It's done, dusted. But yeah, no, I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it actually.
Rich.
Yeah, echoing again the comments you made. A very stylishly made film. It's the director is Brandon Caruso, who's the son of DJ Caruso.
All right.
Who, director of things like Eagle Eye and Disturbia, in which Brandon I think appeared as in a small, small supporting role when he was little. The or younger, but yeah, so it's very solidly made. It is a bit Wall-E basically, and like you say, or Dark Star or Silent Running, that it's got that kind of thing going on with it, and then it's got that sort of he's the last survivor on the ship, going about his business, tending to the plants and whatever for eternity, essentially, because he can probably never die.
Been out there for like 10 years, isn't it? Sort of 3,400 days or something.
And then there's that, it's the misdirection. It sort of takes you in a completely different direction at the ending, which I've seen done on a couple of other films as well, which is fine. I don't mind that. I think it's quite good. It recontextualizes the rest, the context of the situation quite nicely. And if the story had gone on, I would have been interested. I think that I don't know if it was ever conceived as like a proof of concept or something. I mean, it works quite well as it is, as a, I don't know, almost Twilight Zone-ish, Outer Limits-ish kind of story, told in about 8 minutes. I thought it worked quite well, say a bit too familiar with all the, because the Wally sort of going about his business, sort of looking after stuff, is kind of the majority of it. There's not much story there until the end. But I think it's real. I do think it's very stylish, very worth seeing. The man in a suit kind of android doesn't quite work for me. I think that the mask and that works quite well, but it is obviously a bloke or a woman wearing a suit. So the sort of, which can work, like RoboCop or whatever, it can be pulled off. But in this case, it just looked a bit too much like the movements didn't seem mechanical enough.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Which it's not a huge problem in of itself, but I do prefer robots to be a bit more robotic, or or at least if it's going to be like an android, like a like Bishop or whatever, just sort of make them more human looking. But that's a very minor quibble.
Cool. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this, I must admit. It's just that sort of silly music. They decided to use the sort of French, very French sort of style, I just did not get on with that at all. But I love the payoff. I thought that worked really well. Sort of does sort of shine light on his situation, giving it sort of macabre twist. Really, really like that. So yeah, overall, this was very, very good indeed. We do not score the short shots, but we certainly recommend you check them out. You will find a link to this in the footnotes below. Go check it out. Our DTV throwback this week is Above the Law, not the Seagull one. A seasoned criminal and his crew are set up as patsies for a political assassination. I'm a big fan of the sort of French style of cop thrillers, the police procedurals, that sort of thing. This is actually a Belgian film, but it very much fits into that mold. You could not tell, other than a few locations, the difference between this and a French thriller. It does start with a media res, but other than that, I thought this was absolutely solid. Really enjoyed it. Steve, what did you make of Above the Law?
I did enjoy it, but I've got issues with it. It didn't seem to know. It's very convoluted, and I know it's just changing, like the main character and the style of the film all the way through. So it starts off with about these serial killers, like flashbacks to the 80s or whatever. You're thinking, okay, Silence of the Lambs, that type style. Then you've got like the attack in the car park, which kind of like reminded me of like Sicario, and then you're back to finding the body in Silence of the Lambs. Then it's like a prison drama, then it's like a heist drama. Excuse me. And it just kind of didn't seem to know what it wanted to be. And the ending kind of really pissed me off because again, there's it's nothing's tied up. It's
well, that kind of does fit in with the sort of French style, admittedly, and like that French style, it is completely what's the word I'm looking for? It's completely unsympathetic. You know what I mean? It's it doesn't try to soft sell anything. It's a very harsh reality. They sort of tend to.
I mean, the violence was very, grim and quite shocking, especially in that opening car park scene. I was like, shit. And then, it goes through it again, and you kind of see it from the other side as well, and it just seemed to flip from who the main character is, what type of film it is, and it's really well made, and it's not badly performed, it's great, but I just think it was very unfocused, and it kind of kept taking me out of the film quite a bit.
I mean, I didn't feel that at all, to be honest. I was able to roll with it. I think you're right in that, it does start off one way and then sort of veers off to a completely different character. But I did like, so the main character, as it turns out, is a guy called Vulcan. He's a career criminal. He's basically Robert De Niro in Heat. Is that's the sort of thing, and he's got his crew. They're all sort of ex-military. I think the idea is they served together in the Foreign Legion, judging by the song they were singing. Even the woman with them, she's just like this no nonsense sort of character. I just thought that worked really, really well. The prison bit, it's okay. It seemed quite straightforward to breaking him out of prison. But I just really, really, really enjoyed it. Must admit, it is just like very cold-hearted. At the end, there was one thing I thought was quite amusing as well. Is that he proves to be incredibly pragmatic. He takes out a particular character and then just drives away. No attempt to sort of save anyone or anything like that. It's like killing him and I'm getting the fuck out. And then once the dust settled, then he comes back and sort of gets his vengeance at the end. But I've seen a few films in this sort of mold, and I thought this sort of stood up really well. It sort of shares certain motifs, like I say, that sort of that cold-heartedness towards certain characters is very sort of unsympathetic. Things turn out.
Bit like, what was the one the other week? Is it Relentless?
Oh yeah.
That kind of style. And fair enough.
But at least that's stuck with a character. I see what you mean. One central character. But I enjoyed this. It's certainly a better DTV choice than the Ice Forest last week. At least you get to follow what was going on here. The incidents that's set in the 80s, apparently that is a sort of true to life series of sort of murders that happened.
Right.
And the killers were never caught, and there was sort of suggestions that it was a government hit squad who was trying to sort of stir things up or something. But anyway, other than that, I thoroughly enjoyed this. I'd certainly recommend it. This is available on IMDb TV, which you can get through your Amazon subscription. I'm not sure how else you get hold of it. But it is, it's free, except there's a couple of adverts. Not as many adverts as we came across in absolute force on YouTube.
No.
But you do get no warning when they turn up. And all of a sudden, people are talking direct to the screen and go, "What? Oh, it's an advert. I see." It's just But
was it subtitled or dubbed? I don't know if you
subtitled.
Subtitled.
Yeah, it was pretty damn good. 2017 it came out, so it's 5 years old. If you're a fan of that sort of film, the sort of police procedural kind of thing, or films like Heat, you want to see how the Belgians handle the Heat movie, definitely check it out. And that is the end of this week's episode. So thanks to Steve and Rich for covering these films this week.
No problems.
Strange couple of films they were, especially Anonymous Animals. God damn. It's been a while since we've had something that weird to talk about. There you go.
How would you rank that compared to the one about the people living at the end of the world with, and there was no dialogue and, they had to creep around because a bit like A Quiet Place kind of thing. Because I really that's the one that sort of really stuck in my mind that I didn't get on with at all, which was.
Now I remember with the giant robots and shit.
Yeah.
New World Order. It was.
That was a better film. Yeah, that was a better film. At least that made sense. This one doesn't. Don't forget to check out the DTV Digest Twitter and Facebook pages at the DTV Digest. Also check out our sister show, The Short Shots, and its own Twitter page where Rich puts a link to a new short every evening around about 8 o'clock. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.